It's been more than 2 weeks since a federal judge heard arguments about whether or not 16-year-old murder suspect Timothy Hudson should be detained, ahead of his trial. And today we have the answer. Yes, he should. Hudson is accused of killing his stepsister, 18-year-old Anna Kepner, on Carnival cruise ship back in November. Her body was found stuffed under the bed of the stateroom they had been sharing. He's been charged with first-degree murder and aggravated sexual abuse, but despite the seriousness of those accusations, Hudson's been allowed to remain free ahead of his federal trial. Until today, that is, because Hudson has officially surrendered to U.S. Marshals following the judge's order, finding that the prosecution's case, quote, their case for a forcible rape is beyond clear and convincing. That's the legal standard. And that it suggests, quote, a level of psychopathy and lack of remorse that by itself raises a serious concern that Hudson can snap at any time, despite the well-meaning and serious efforts of his caretakers to make sure that doesn't happen. Joining me now, Bridgette Matter, WPLG Local 10 reporter who's been covering this story from the very beginning. Thanks so much for taking the time. So Hudson surrenders. First of all, where is he right now?
Well, it's our understanding, based on that document, on that filing that was unsealed today, that after he turns himself in to the marshals, he must be taken to the Citrus County Jail. And the reason being is because that facility, it can house juveniles. So he is to be taken to the Citrus County Jail. And in the document, it also says that he must have access to visitation to his family, have internet access so he can speak to his family. After that, he must be brought here to Miami-Dade County no later than July 10th.
Now, look, I can't say I'm surprised from a legal point of view that this happened, given the seriousness of these allegations. I talked about the charges. The judge cited Hudson's alleged lack of remorse as a reason for keeping him detained. But was there another reason that the judge gave as well?
Well, we have to remember he was Baker acted after this happened. The filing really is talking a lot about danger to himself, danger to the community. And like you mentioned, leading up to this, about the fact that he could potentially snap.
Yeah.
So I think that when we look at a lot of murder cases, when you're awaiting trial, a lot of times you're in custody. You're not sitting at home. You don't have a bond. You don't have a bail. So the judge at this point is responsible for making that decision, because they really don't know what could happen if he's not in custody being watched by corrections.
And look, to be clear, this is not an ultimate determination. He is still innocent unless proven guilty. But given the gravity of these charges, you're talking about a forcible sexual assault and a murder. Those are the allegations. And considering that, it's not surprising. But what is interesting is, I don't know if you call it a reverse course or not, because the judge did defend his decision for a pretrial release, right? What happened there? How did the judge defend the initial decision to make sure Hudson was out?
So I think, that happened before he was officially charged as an adult. So as the investigation unfolds, the judge is going to see more evidence, and that can change the judge's decision. So at the time, with the information that this judge had, the fact that he is a juvenile, he was not charged as an adult initially. Those things change. So the judge, he is saying that at the time, the circumstances and the facts that were known at the time, that decision, he stands by it. But now that things have changed, he has the right to change his decision.
That's a good point. By the way, this mental health evaluation has been ordered. What can you tell us about that?
Don't know specific details, but like I mentioned, remember, he was Baker acted right after she died. So I think it's pretty common in a lot of these cases, especially when we're talking about a juvenile. They want to make sure that he's competent to stand trial. They want to make sure that if he's taking any medications, if he's suffering from any type of mental issues, any diagnosis, they need to monitor him. The judge is going to want to know his state of mind. They're going to want to know his mental health picture as a whole as they proceed through his case.
Yeah, because there could be issues of competency, right? You understand the charges that you're facing. Can you actually assist your defense in this case? Important questions that come forward. Bridgette Matter, thank you for taking the time. I appreciate it. Again, very big development in the Anna Kepner case.
Thanks so much. Good seeing you.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.